Bucky Brooks. It's all said and done now for number 9, the QB of America's team. He's going to be in the CBS booth, so we'll see him there. But in 5 years' time, will we see him getting a gold jacket, or at any point in his life getting a gold jacket?
I mean, it depends, because now we have these different distinctions, because a first ballot Hall of Fame is viewed differently than someone who eventually sneaks into the Hall of Fame.
I know, I hate that too. That's a conversation for another time.
To me, he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Okay.
I think he eventually becomes a Hall of Famer because.
All right, but just for the record, let me say it again since you revisited it. If you're a Hall of Famer, you're a Hall of Famer. This nonsense with being a first, I'm going to vote for him next year. He's just not a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Well, I don't know. Here's why I'm sideways. I'm sideways because the whole Terrell Owens thing. I just don't know how Terrell Owens is sitting on the outside. And
I spoke with Terrell Owens at the Super Bowl in Houston, Texas. The best quarterback he ever played with, Tony Romo. That's kind of high praise.
I mean, it's high praise, and I think
that's what T.O. says.
You can give Romo high praise based on where he came from. Undrafted quarterback, because when you're undrafted, that means no one necessarily thought that you had more than 1 or 2 redeeming qualities. So to come from being an undrafted quarterback, guy viewed with few redeeming qualities, to be a starter for over a decade for America's team, to put up the numbers that he put up, he's certainly knocking on the door. I think the big thing that will come, because now the Hall of Fame has become a popularity contest better than a meritocracy. How will people view his career? Will they view the moments of failure that kind of have stood out, like the Seattle moment and the turnovers against the Giants at the end of the year, stuff like that? Or will they be able to take his career and say, like, this is a dude who has arguably, I think he has the highest passer rating of anyone who hasn't appeared in a Super Bowl. He's 4th all-time in passer rating, the completion percentage and all those things. It certainly puts him in that conversation where you have to kind of say, like, man, this is one of the best players of his era, even though the era has changed in terms of the way they throw it around the yard. I think he eventually gets in, though.
It's, I've made this point a number of times about why Lynn Swann's in the Hall of Fame. It's because whether you like it or not, whether you think it's fair or not, and there's certainly a lot of merit in Lynn Swann shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame based on numbers and career deeds. The reason he is, though, is because he made iconic plays in big games that everyone who watches football saw. You may say that's ridiculous, but that's how the voters vote. Romo doesn't exactly have those. He had a lot of, for all the knocks of his failures in 2-minute situations, he had a lot of success in those situations too. But in January, we just played at the very top of the show. You heard maybe, the Seattle fumble on the field goal and all that kind of stuff. That being said, I feel like the biggest moment, the decisive moment of his career was that one ball, 4th and 2, by the way, the nails to make that throw. Dez catches it. They win that game. That maybe puts him in the Hall of Fame. And I know that's crazy to say.
I don't think it is.
But, I mean, really, the voters are human beings. And so they viscerally will recall that play. And like, oh, yeah, they went to Seattle. And what if they had beaten Seattle and gotten to – we wouldn't have that. It would certainly be Romo's in the Hall of Fame. EH, I'll say you.
Well, I'm just blown away, first of all, that Bucky even acknowledged him as a potential Hall of Famer, because you've come around a little bit. You used to be harder on him.
No. I was one of his biggest supporters and defenders, but I also understand kind of what it is. I think quarterbacks in general get too much credit and too much criticism. I think everything that we do in this league is about the quarterback, and part of the reason is because all the analysts are quarterbacks, so they make it a game that is about the quarterback, and there's so much more to it. I will say this: he is talented. He had to carry a team that wasn't a very good team for a while, and he carried them to kind of like, as far as he could carry them, like those years they were 8-8 or whatever. When he was supported with a great cast, for whatever reason, they couldn't get over the hump. Some of that may have been him. Some of that may have been other factors. Obviously, the Dez Bryant catch, that was a team. I was at that game. They dominated the game.
DeMarco Murray doesn't fumble. They move on.
DeMarco Murray fumbles a complete change. They were mollywopping the Green Bay Packers and didn't finish it. I think the big thing for voters will be able to kind of cast aside those moments that stand out, because those moments, his failures, stand out just because of the way they occurred and when they occurred. End of game, we always talk about clutch moments, clutch shots or whatever, and even though some of that is just kind of fluff, but people remember Michael Jordan making shots. They remember Kobe making shots.
I don't think it's unfair to reference the biggest moments of a professional's career and coming through in the clutch. I think that's completely valid.
They don't remember those guys' misses because they've banked some makes or whatever. And I think For Romo, he has all of these fourth quarter comebacks and game-winning drives, but because they occurred in the regular season and because they didn't occur necessarily on a big stage, they kind of get washed away. With
the other thing that you reference, and the further away we get from it, the less meaningful it'll be to the voters. But in the moment when Romo was this is such a nuanced kind of point to say, yeah, but if Alex Smith were the quarterback of the Cowboys right now, they would be winless, and instead Romo has some semi-relevant. They're not going to win the Super Bowl, but in those years his career starts as a starter, he goes 13-3 with and loses to the Giants in the divisional round. Then he goes out basically with that Dez game in Lambeau, the catch non-catch, and in between there are a bunch of so-so years, but really he made them better than they otherwise would have. I mean, they would have been bum teams if they would have had, as a replacement, say, Alex Smith, who's a fine QB.